So here is my 3 people in my audience. I'm gonna hand the camera over. And hi, my name is Courtney Bolton, and I'm here to talk to you all about the mental health care evolution. So basically, the evolution of mental health care over the centuries and across the world has been one of the most drastic evolutions in healthcare history. So what comes to your mind when someone says mental health? Does it remind you of depression, anxiety? How about imprisonment and tortures and skulls being drilled into? Well, it's not always been as civilized as it is today. So the stigma is no longer as sensitive. Over the centuries and decades, the way we've treated our mentally ill has taken a drastic turn for the better. So after much research and clinical experience, I've gained the knowledge to open my eyes up to a world that was once mistrusted and not treated as well as it is today. So today I hope I can shed light on a topic that is more important than is led on to be. So I'm going to talk about the way we treat our mentally ill, how it was once centered around religion, inhumane imprisonment, torture, execution, and skulls being drilled into, and the way that we now treat people with electricity, behavioral therapy, and pharmacology. So how does religion connect with mental illnesses? Well, a mental illness was once viewed as a punishment or a curse from something supernatural. So a priest was called to perform rituals like prayer, exorcisms. They'd even use emetics, laxatives, cupping, leeches, and tobacco to rid the body of these spirits that they thought was causing a mental disorder. Now, if this was unsuccessful, they would punish these people for odd behavior. Also, the stigma around a mental health disorder was once so bad that a family would disown a family member just to protect the family name of someone having a mentally ill person in their family. These people would end up on the streets as beggars, and they would even sometimes die from the elements because they just had nowhere to go. There was also no facilities to treat these patients, so if they didn't end up on the street as beggars, they'd become servants, they'd become slaves, and this was before asylums were built. Now, when asylums were built, they weren't built to treat these people, unfortunately. They were treated as basically just somewhere to hold these people. They would imprison them, they would torture them, they would neglect them, some even to death. Now, an infamous and even recent means of treatment is lobotomies. And as you can see right here, it was a psychosurgery of the 1930s, and basically they would drill a medical instrument into the skull above the eye socket. And this is very dangerous, and it wasn't even until 2011 that an article was produced that said, hey, this is dangerous. People are vomiting, they're losing bladder and bowel control, they're having vision difficulties, and it's putting them in unnatural states of apathy, lethargy, and depression. So it's actually a pretty recent treatment, and that's kind of a sad thing to say. It was used to treat schizophrenia, manic depression, and bipolar disorder. So, of course, this has died out finally. Now, at the end of cruel treatment came more modern and effective treatment, and that is electricity. I know it doesn't sound safe, but it is still used today. Basically, they'll it's like what it says, they'll electrocute you, and this is supposed to restore the humors of the brain. It's used for schizophrenia and severe depression, mostly severe depression, and it's used as a last resort. Now, it's not commonly used, but because it's scary, and it's been said that people would sometimes harm themselves afterwards, so they use it as a last resort. Now, the most effective modern treatment today is behavioral therapy and pharmacological therapy. Now, psychoanalysis is a type of behavioral therapy. It was invented by Sigmund Freud, and it was a method of treatment that basically involved just talking to your patients and making unconscious thoughts and feelings conscious, and they believe that once you face these things, you heal. So, also, there is, of course, pharmacology, and that's the most common method of treatment nowadays. With the introduction of lithium in the 1940s, which is a very strong drug used to treat mostly bipolar and psychosis type symptoms, it was finally controlling these people's symptoms where they couldn't find anything to help them before. So they said, okay, medicine's the answer. So then came Thorazine, Prozac, and Valium, just to name a few. Now, I'd also like to talk about this picture that's in the middle. This is actually the East Louisiana State Hospital. I spent 2 weeks there in clinical experience. It was the first state-ran hospital, mental health hospital in the nation. And it's used today still. It was built in 1848. They have 600 plus patients there. And it's more so, they have a lot of criminals that were tried as mentally insane, and they hold a lot of those people there. So it's ran much similar to a prison. You know, you have to go through checks to get into certain divisions and floors. The people there, they're there to be helped, but a lot of them are very medicated because they are so severely mentally disabled. So our society, in summary, and world still lacks mental health institutions and hospitals. The funding's not there, unfortunately, but we have made leaps and bounds considering what we came from. Now we're becoming more understanding and humane with our treatment because, again, before it was about religion, inhumane imprisonments, torture, executions, and lobotomies. Now we use electricity, behavioral therapy, pharmacology, and there are some mental health institutions available for these patients. Now, in closing, I'd like to read this quote: "What we change inwardly will change outer reality." So this means two things to me. We need to continue to work on the stigma. It's not something that people choose. It's an actual disorder. So secondly, we need to treat them from the inside out. Imprisonments and torture and all of that, that's not the way to treat these people. They don't choose these disabilities. It's really a disease. So I hope you all learned something, and thank you for your time.